Must have been a short person up here last. Good morning, all. I'm Larry Cordray, and I'm the worship leader for this morning. I'd like to welcome you all here, and hi out there to our folks in Zoom land. One quick reminder about our cell phones, if we can put them on airplane mode or turn them off, so it helps with the bandwidth, I guess. I'm getting into technology I don't understand, but for our Zoom people. So we'll be opening this morning with our first song, song number 9, I Sing the Mighty Power of God. A few moments of centering silence. We're ready now for our children's message this morning.
I'm going to need a microphone.
Yep, here we go. Do you want to use the...
No, this is fine. Okay. This is fine right here.
And clear at the other end of the room.
Thank you. Well, today is a special day. You know what day it is. It's Mother's Day. Yes. And if you've ever kissed a boo-boo on a child, you've been a mother. If you've ever comforted a crying child, you've been a mother. Everybody, female, you've been a mother. So I brought a book today that's called I Love You Forever. And it's about a little boy and his growing up and what his mother did for him. But as I'm reading it to you, I want you to be thinking about what he did to deserve his mom's love. A mother held her new baby and very slowly rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she held him, she sang, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby, you'll be. Well, that baby grew. He grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was 2 years old, and he ran all around the house. He pulled all the books off the shelves. He pulled all of the food out of the refrigerator, and he took took his mother's watch and flushed it down the toilet. And sometimes his mother would say, "That kid is driving me crazy." But at nighttime, when that 2-year-old was quiet, she opened the door to his room, crawled across the floor, looked up over the side of the bed, and if he was really asleep, she picked him up and rocked him back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang. And you can say this with me. "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." The little boy grew. He grew, and he grew, and he grew. He grew until he was 9 years old, and he never wanted to come in for dinner, and he never wanted to take a bath. And when Grandma visited, he always said bad words. And sometimes his mother wanted to sell him to the zoo. But at nighttime, when he was asleep, the mother quietly opened the door to his room, looked up over the side of the bed, and if he was really asleep, she picked up that 9-year-old boy and rocked him back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." Well, the boy grew. He grew, and he grew, and he grew. He grew until he was a teenager. He had strange friends, and he wore strange clothes, and he listened to strange music. And sometimes the mother felt like she was in a zoo. But at nighttime, when that teenager was asleep, the mother opened the door to his room, crawled across the floor, and looked up over the side of the bed. And if he was really asleep, she picked up that great big boy and she rocked him back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." Well, that teenager grew. He grew, and he grew, and he grew. He grew until he was a full-grown man, and he left home and got a house across town. Now, you've got to see this picture. It's a station wagon with a ladder tied on the top of it, so you know what's going to happen. But sometimes on dark nights, the mother got into her car and drove across town. And if all the lights in her son's house were out, she opened the bedroom window, crawled across the floor, and looked over the side of his bed. And if that great big man was really asleep, she picked him up and rocked him back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." Well, that mother, she got older. She got older and older and older. And one day, she called up her son and said, "You better come see me, because I'm very old and sick." So her son came to her. And when he came in the door, she tried to sing the song. She sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always." But she couldn't finish because she was too old and too sick. The son went to his mother. He picked her up and he rocked her back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. And he sang this song, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my mommy you'll be." And when the son came home that night, he stood for a long time at the top of the stairs. And then he went into the room where his very new baby daughter was sleeping. And he picked her up in his arms and very slowly rocked back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And while he rocked her, he sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." Well, I ask you at the beginning to be thinking about what the little boy did to deserve his mom's love. How long did the mom love him? She loved him. She loved being near him. She loved being with him. And she loved being loved by him. And the same thing can be said for our God and us.
Thank you, Rita. That was wonderful. It's time for our announcements this morning, and we'll start on Zoom. So does anyone on Zoom have any announcements this morning? Okay, announcements here in the meeting house.
Thank you. Anita Kamek, just a quick word about the compost bins. There are 3 or 4 more bags of compost sitting out beside the bins back there for anybody who wants to take a bag. Please feel free. There was a little wet, so they're a little bit heavy. They might be a little bit dirty on the outside. And then next week, we'll start, after worship today, I'm going to set up the left side bin, as you're looking at them, I'm going to set up the left one as our new bin. So starting next week, we're going to let the one we've been using cook into some new compost, and we're going to start using the left-hand bin. So I'll probably put a sign or something just as a reminder, but just wanted to let everybody know. Thank you.
You'll join me in prayer. As we do every moment, be with us and be with those who minister in our communities. Be with Lynn and all of those that are ministering at Shepherd's Cover, with Stan and Indiana Aid and all those he's visiting with at Clay. God, be with Jackson as he ministers for peace in Ukraine. God, be with all of those that are making peace in this world. May we find your wisdom and your light. God, be with those that are needing healing at this moment, whether in mind or body. Be with us. Be with the nurses and the doctors as they care for us. Be with the family members as they struggle to comprehend changes in life. And be with us in our joyous moments for new families, new members, marriages, and anniversaries. Give us your peace this day as we all pray. Amen. Can you hear me now? Okay. Live long and prosper. Do any of you know what that comes from? Okay, Star Trek. Yeah, that's right. It was an invention, this sign, from Leonard Nimoy. He was asked in one episode of Star Trek to come up with a Vulcan greeting that would include a hand gesture of some sort. And this comes from Nimoy's Jewish background. I really didn't understand that connection until I was sitting at Temple Beth Israel in Pomona, California, during one of our local interfaith peace marches. There above the bema was this symbol of hands. I learned that this was the hand gesture that is sometimes used by the Jewish priests to give the Aaronic blessing, or the Kohanim blessing. God telling Moses that Aaron and his family are to be blessed priests, linking the heritage of all Israel back to God. When the priests do the blessing, they take the two hands, connect the thumbs to make the Hebrew letter Shin. Shin is the first letter of Shaddai, one of the names given to God in the Torah. I always admired this character of Spock growing up. I think because he was an outsider, a human mother and a Vulcan father, on a crew of humans. I felt a fondness for him. And since it is Mother's Day, I should note that Spock's mother was played by both Jane Wyatt in the original show and Winona Ryder in the more recent movies. She taught Spock to embrace his human emotions and integrate them into his dedication to Vulcan logic and reason. I also felt an affinity to Spock before I knew myself as gay. I knew that I didn't quite fit in my small rural towns that I grew up in, or even the faith community I grew up in. Many of you may have had those kinds of experiences. I grew up in the Church of the Brethren, a pietist offshoot of Anabaptism. One day I was trying to explain what it was like growing up queer in an Anabaptist setting, and one of my friends said that they wouldn't know how that felt, but it would probably be like an outsider growing up in an outsider tradition. Our family vacations were saved for attending the annual conference, wherever it was that year, and for years I spent my life trying to be a good Brethren guy and integrate that into who I am. Yet the church wouldn't budge or move towards me. I had learned the traditions and values when I went on ministry summer service, serving as a student pastor in southern Pennsylvania, where I was told by multiple people that I would never be a good pastor because I'm gay. Then I volunteered for 2 years in Minneapolis for the Brethren Mennonite Council for LGBT interests, helping groups of students at Brethren and Mennonite colleges and universities in the United States and Canada to start LGBTQ plus student groups. Yet, Brethren Volunteer Service would not list BMC as a service site for it being out of order with annual conference statements on human sexuality. Then, after graduate school, I applied for a service coordinator position in Brethren Volunteer Service, only to receive a call from the General Secretary telling me that, "You know why we can't take you in this position." I did make him tell me it was because I am gay. After getting my MSW, I went on to build my professional life around medical education and have a wonderful, life-changing experiences in that field. However, I still felt a little bit like a fish out of water. I wanted to worship in Brethren congregations and had a wonderful time with the Laverne Church of the Brethren in Southern California. It is where John and I were married. After we moved back to Indiana, I started attending the Northview Church of the Brethren here in Indianapolis. A lovely group of people overall. I attended one of the love feasts, a reenactment of the Last Supper, and I've been to so many of those growing up. I've washed many feet, including many, many strangers. In this love feast, there was both a foot and hand washing station for those that didn't want to wash feet. My friends and those who knew me in the congregation decided to do the hand washing, but I'm a little bit of a traditionalist. So I sat down in the circle of men to do the foot washing and remove my shoes and socks. I was then faced with the other older men who I did not know, taking their chairs and forming a smaller circle with me on the outside. I saw the pastor saw what was happening and came over and said, "I guess we're washing each other's feet," which we did. It was at that moment that I knew I was out of the brotherhood, and having only been back to brethren congregations a few times, but not yet another love feast. That brings me back to Star Trek. Living in Southern California for 8 years meant that we were only a short drive away from Las Vegas, the location of the world's largest Star Trek convention, which John and I decided to go on our last year living in Southern California, foregoing the annual conference trip. I won a signed photo of the original Star Trek cast, save George Takei and Walter Koenig's, in a silent auction, and decided to get George Takei's autograph at that convention. We had such a good time, and I got to be in the same room and meet many of the actors and writers that were involved in the franchise. If an alien were ever to peek around at Earthlings, the Star Trek convention would be the place to do it. Some people spend a fortune on prosthetics and will dress up like aliens from the show, so much so that you get used to riding the elevator and eating lunch with Klingons, Romulans, Vulcans, and a lot of people dressed in Starfleet costumes. The summer after we had moved back to Indiana, John and I invited my parents to that year's Star Trek convention, and despite them getting lost in Death Valley on the way there, we had a blast. And I got my autograph from Walter Koenig, completing the cast photo. And I brought that photo in so you can all see it. Straighten that out. And then we sat and listened to Kate Mulgrew rally the young and progressive Trekkies, and John and I were invited to a Gays in Space celebration at a local gay club. We didn't quite know what to expect, but we're thrilled to find our nerdy queer and trans family letting its collective hair down. We listened to a parody band of the Cranberries called the Roddenberries sing their hits, witnessed a Klingon drag show, and then Wilson Cruz and Anthony Rapp came up to the DJ booth. Anthony was just starting to talk about his experience of being abused by an older actor. Something that I'm so thankful for his voice and strength, which helped me talk about surviving an abusive relationship when I was in college. When I used to hear that LGBTQ plus people are going to hell, I thought, if hell includes people like us, I don't want to go to heaven. For I am surely going to hell in good company. For about a year, I thought, this is it. All I need is John and the rest of my queer family. My spiritual people didn't want me, so I didn't need them, nor spirituality. Then we moved into our house on Stanley Road, and I thought we had arrived in the place just right. And while I will always be at home with John no matter where I am, I felt a stirring of the Spirit. It was a stirring that I knew needed a spiritual connection. Just as Leonard had connected his spiritual heritage to his present work, I needed to find the same connection. The next year, I started seeking out a faith community that would fit my desire for a peace church, while also be welcoming to me and John. I went to a few other friends' meetings, actually having met Sue and Scott at one of those other meetings. But just as I had started this search, the pandemic hit. I was working at the as a pediatric residency coordinator at Riley Hospital for Children, and the COVID pandemic hit slow first. Our infectious disease team offered information on what they knew about COVID. Then there were cases in the US, then Indiana, then adults, then children, then the residents. We as program staff were sent home for a few weeks, but we finally decided amongst us that we would start going back into the hospital in shifts, so that we knew that the residents who were living there, basically taking care of children, were taking care of themselves, making sure they had meals delivered and that the teaching continued. Then the unthinkable happened. We lost one of our chief residents. It was a time of great grief for us all. But other programs and hospitals across the country rallied around us, sending cards and boxes of sweets. It was in the midst of this crisis that I found Fairfield. I did not often drive west on Canby because most everything we went to was east from our house. One day, driving past to go to the park at Echo Hollow, I thought, well, I'll check out their website. Until that point, other than my own father, all the other pastors of where I had been a member had been women. I attended my first service online, and even though he wasn't a woman, I thought this Phil fellow preached a pretty good sermon. Then I saw the email invite to the movie group. It is where I first got to know a lot of you, and I'm so grateful for John inviting us all that participated. It was one of those things that got me through the tough days, knowing that I would have some sort of community to look forward to. I started finding myself more and more in my spiritual home, and was asked to be on the Peace and Social Justice Committee, something my heart ached for, and I felt seen. Then you asked me to preach a sermon on my interfaith work. Then Tom Rockwell asked me to be on the Quaker Ministry Experience Committee for Western Yearly Meeting. Then Ministry and Council for Fairfield, and now an elders group for Western. You've all been so supportive of my continued work and solidarity with our immigrant friends. Jackson has even mentioned his queer and trans friends and their concerns in his messages, and has been personally encouraging of my own path towards formalized ministry. It has been refreshing, even though I only know a little bit about what you all had to experience in rejection by Western Yearly Meeting in the past to create this place of welcome. I think the thing where I finally felt woven into the tapestry of this meeting was when John and I traveled with a group of you down to Alabama on the Civil Rights Pilgrimage. Although John is quiet, his superpower is his secret BS meter. He can read authenticity from a mile away. After spending several days in the van with several of you, we came to know for sure that we authentically belonged. That belonging is what made me start to think about not only how I belonged at Fairfield, but where and how I belong in Scripture. I happened to attend a lecture last year at CTS by Brandon Robertson on his book, Queer and Christian, Reclaiming the Bible, Our Faith and Our Place at the Table. In this, he not only wrestled with the clobber passages that are used against queer and trans people, but also took it a step further, noting the queering of the stories in the Bible, mentions of eunuchs, Ruth and Naomi, David and Jonathan, and Jesus and Lazarus. Before reading that book, I had just accepted the interpretations I had been given of these stories. But Brandon asked us to queer these stories through a different lens. It is one thing to be seen and belong to a faith community. It is an amazing joy to feel seen and feel like you belong in your own faith text. It is this community and encouragement that have led me to applying to, and as of last week, being accepted to the MDiv program at CTS. It's been a long and winding road, but a path I think will be well worth my time and energy, even though I am in my midlife and career. To bring it back to Mother's Day, I think back to a line that Spock's mother said to him after he decided to go into Starfleet and serve with humans rather than stay on Vulcan and serve in the traditional Vulcan Science Academy. She said, "Oh Spock, as always, whatever you choose to do, you will have a proud mother." I will end here with a poem by Jane O'Shea from her collection Follow Yourself Home, which inspired this message. following your life as it demands that you venture further and further out into the world until you become caught in your own forgetting and find yourself far away from where your dreams began, promising you'll take care of yourself soon. At last, stopping, bewildered and dazed, the enchanted forest has become bleak and black, and you are lost, too long away from your heart's home. Time to leave the responsibilities still asking, and the tasks unfinished. Close your ears to the screaming complaints and the unending demands. Hold still and listen to the faint and distant rhythm that is your own, and follow, and follow, and follow, until you recognize yourself in your own step, and follow, and follow, and follow, until you remember and know yourself once more, until you settle back into your own relieved body and vow to never get lost again. That with each adventure out into the world, you will always come home to yourself and rest. As we center down, I will leave us with this query. How is the Spirit guiding you to make space in a spiritual home for others here at Fairfield?
Nearly every day I have lunch with a group of about 6 people at a big table in a restaurant in Greencastle where my office is located and where I grew up. And the group includes a cousin of mine who lived across the road from me as we were growing up. She's a year older than I am, so I've known her my entire life. Also in the group is the mailman who delivered mail to my cousin and me on that same road. So most of these people I've known a long, long time. There's also a man who's a teacher at South Putnam, or was, I'm sorry, he's retired, a teacher and a coach at South Putnam High School, and a couple of others. And I really enjoy being with them, but sometimes things are said that are pretty appalling and hurtful to me. One time, about a year or so ago, the former teacher said, "I just don't know why they keep putting these queers on television." I turned to him and said, "I happen to have a grandson who is gay." And he said, "Oh, well, I didn't mean to offend you." I said, "Well, you did." And nothing has been said about that topic since. I don't know that any minds were changed, but at least I had to speak up. And I hope it made them think a bit. And this next week, I'm looking forward to going to lunch again. And though my grandson doesn't need any accolades or anything to make him a treasured member of our family and a worthy human being, I look forward to telling them that this last Friday he was the only freshman at Greencastle High School on awards day to receive an award as the outstanding biology student in the entire school. And that on Saturday he and his teammates became the state champions for the Science Bowl competition across the state of Indiana. We're so proud of him for all that he is and who he is. And we'll continue to speak up on his behalf and hope that minds and hearts are changed.
This is Paula Cardozo-Jones. I've shared this once before. I saw it on Facebook, so it's got to be true. DEI, diversity, in all its forms, is God's creation. Equity, it's God's justice. Inclusion, it's God's family.
Dan Jones again. Just a little bit about my journey. this reminded me of a lot is that I was a member of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and I add that to it because they're a little different than the ELCA in terms of what they welcome and what they don't. But when I came out, I was removed from my Missouri Synod church where I'd been for like 25 years, and I taught in the school and things like that. And my wife was a teacher there and still remained there until she retired. But after that, I kind of moved around, and we did go to Life Journey in Indianapolis for a while, which is a predominantly gay church, which is okay, but it's like, well, that's their focus. It's not like community with everyone. And when we came to Plainfield, we eventually went to St. Stephen's Lutheran Church in Plainfield, which is an ELCA, and they were very welcoming and everything until 2014 when they allowed same-sex marriage everywhere. And I asked if we could get married there, and well, no. So I worked with Jennifer Silvers at the library, and I asked her, I said, well, could you marry us? Would that be in conflict with Fairfield, where, I didn't know anything about Fairfield in those days. And she said, oh, of course, no problem at all. And she married us at a friend's house. And so after that, I became kind of interested in coming here just because of Jennifer, and then she left and went to Colorado, but we continued, of course. And just this welcoming community and inclusive community is really special. And I did leave out one little thing. We had our non-legal marriage at Life Journey that I talked about before in 2000, so we're going on 26 years married, but only about 11 years, I guess, as far as legal marriage. So that's it.
Hi, Linda Lynn. Thank you for the message today and your journey. I think those of us who grow up as preachers' kids have a double whammy of a parent who has the authority of a parent and also the authority of God. And it's confusing really early on. It's a confusing kind of place to be. And I think I learned everything I needed to know about organizations growing up in the Methodist Church and the Methodist Parsonage. And like John, my antenna detection skills are pretty high of situations in organizations, and knowing that, learning over the years that organized religion is a human organization. And there's so many things I appreciate about the people growing up and lessons I've learned. And I was thinking this morning in the chat room, this article about are Quakers Christians or not, or both, or what, this confusion, not confusion only, but all this clamoring about who is Christian or who is what, what's your lineage. And it reminds me sometimes of dogs going to stake their territory on the bush. Of who's here first, who's in charge. And I find this place particularly so refreshing from the first time I walked in here, and that feeling of it's a big pool for everybody, and that sense of community, and that means a lot. And when you said you're going to go to CTS, I thought that's good. Both my brothers did time at CTS, and it reminded me of a camp meeting I used to go to occasionally over in southern Illinois. Pretty serious group. And about 10 years ago, a young man whose father was a minister and grandfather was a minister made the announcement that he was going to be called to preach and he was going to go to seminary. But when he announced the seminary he was going to was one in Chicago, that they later that day announced a special prayer meeting for him for protection, for him to go to that seminary, that he might not lose his way. So I appreciate the way you're choosing, and I appreciate your living witness of that way. So thank you. And I'll pray for you.
This being Mother's Day, I thought I'd pay tribute to my mom, who's no longer with us. But it fits with what you were saying, Josih. We too lived in the Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod ghetto. Ghetto of the mind. And my mom bought it all. I mean, she was faithful. She did what she thought was required. She was a Sunday school teacher for 35 years. That's 35 years with the kids who weren't always grateful for the 25 years simultaneously midweek church school teacher. She knew the stuff. She was deeply soaked in all that they believed. When my dad died, we had to take Mom up to a nursing home near us so we could take care of her. And it was amazing how when you took her out of that solution that she was soaking in, all of a sudden it started melting away. And she started seeing other people who were not part of the ghetto. And before long she said, well, that's just stupid. Well, yeah, Mom, I agree, but you wouldn't have said that a year ago. And as you get out of the brine, those things begin to melt away. And you can always hope that you get to do that with folks. You get to see the change. One of the things that really changed her was when she became a grandmother, and then a great-grandmother. She came unhinged. When the kids would spend 2 weeks with her in the summer, she would organize treasure hunts involved digging in her flower beds. I took her to the side and said, "Who are you and what have you done with my mother?" It's when you start to melt away the hardcore doctrine that you get a chance to be human. And by the time she died, when the Missouri Synod pastor would come to give her communion, and we happened to be there, she'd look over at me and go, it's just worth noting that if you're taken out of the places that cause your bad habits, good habits grow. And here's to Betty on Mother's Day.
Paula Cardozo-Jones again. I'm also from the Missouri Synod. My family background on my dad's side was Missouri Synod. And I got to tell you a short story about my grandmother. I didn't know her well because we didn't live close to where she lived when I was growing up. I have only some fond memories of sitting on her lap in the rocking chair. But the whole family was Missouri Synod. And my grandfather went to the pastor to complain about her. And then the pastor came to the house and told my grandmother that she needed to be more submissive to her husband. Well, that woman up and quit that church and found another church. I love her.
We'll have the collecting of our food and sing the last hymn today. It's on 142, amid all the traffic.
There we go. Okay. I'll read from Numbers 6, verses 22 through 27. God said to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you are to bless all of Israel. Say to them, God bless you and keep you, and the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. So they will put the name of Israel, and I will bless them. Live long and prosper." Friends on Zoom, can we see you? Friends on Zoom, if you're able to turn your camera on. Hi. Turn and greet friends.